My mother is an author of several books, fiction and nonfiction. In 1933, Virginia Driving Hawk was born on the Rosebud Reservation in South Dakota. We sat down this summer to talk about her youth. She attended boarding school during the World War II era.
At St. Mary's, that was during World War II, and we had teachers that were coming from, mainly from New England places. And we had this Japanese teacher that came to be with us. And I didn't think much about her. I mean, she didn't look much differently than the Indian students we had. And she was, and I didn't have her for a class because I think she taught the advanced English classes, and I wasn't ready for that yet. But we had an all-school assembly, and she was explaining about how she came to be at St. Mary's. Her family were in California, and she had gone to school in the East, and I don't remember the college where it was, but she had been sponsored by an Episcopal congregation. And then after her parents were interned, they were taken from their homes and placed in these camps in Nevada, and because they were worried about them being espionage and spies that close to Japan. The congregation in the East did not want her going back to those internment camps. So some pulled some strings some way or other and said that they would be responsible for her. And so they managed to find her this teaching position in the interior of the United States where things would be all safe for her and no spies, that sort of thing. And I remember being so appalled about how can we treat people like that, just take them away from their homes and then move them to strange places, and she wouldn't be able to go home. And I expressed that to her. I said, oh, that's just terrible that you had to be treated like that. And she looked at me and she said, what do you think reservations are? And of course, I suppose I was about 12 years old, and something like that never even occurred to me, what it was. And it's kind of sparked my curiosity so that I became more aware of what my tribal life had been like, and sparked my curiosity to explore that later as I got older and became a writer.
Tell us about your education and how you grew up and where you went to school.
I liked school very much. It was fun to be around other kids. And then we moved to Oak Creek, South Dakota, and I was in the 3rd grade then and started school there. And I was very fortunate to have a teacher that appreciated that I learned to read very quickly, and I loved to read. And he would give me books from his private library and everything, and I just assumed everybody had books like that. I didn't realize that. And then after the 3rd grade, I stayed in Oak Creek until I was ready for the 6th grade. And then my parents decided I should go to boarding school. And this was usually what happened to children on the reservation. If they wanted more education, they had to go to a boarding school. Well, my parents decided that the Rosebud boarding school, that's where they went. And they had some unfortunate experiences there in not being able to speak the language and other things. And they didn't think I would get the education that I should have. So they sent me to St. Mary's School for Indian Girls, which is at Springfield, South Dakota. And I went there when I was in the 6th grade and stayed until I graduated from high school. And it was a school that later became considered a prep school because we were being prepared for further education, whether it be college or to do something in some sort of an occupation that would require further training.
What was your experience like at boarding school?
I was very homesick. The first, seemed like forever. And we slept in dormitories. I was used to having my own bed and sort of privacy. And but the one thing that was running water and toilets, we didn't have to go outside like we did at home. So that was a plus. But I was very homesick, and I was very lonely and shy. And then the school had a system that they called Big Sisters. So an older student would be assigned to a newer, younger student and would help them, get through the maze of what was expected of you and the chores you had to do and making your bed and all of these different things, which did help because somebody was keeping an eye on you. So, and then when the classes started, that was fine because I really liked school, enjoyed that.
When we're talking about all the abuse of boarding schools, how about your relatives? Did anybody?
Well, my parents, that generation, are the ones that experienced that kind of trauma or might have. My dad did not speak English when he started school, and so they were forbidden to use the language in the classroom, and it was very difficult a way to start to learn. And he and a friend of his, Noah Broken Leg, would sneak out and go hide behind the barn so they could talk Lakota to each other and kind of explain to understand what was going on at the school. They never experienced any physical abuse, but they saw friends of theirs that did, who were often supposedly got into trouble for some reason or other, and then they would be physically beaten. But they never were. My dad said we were good boys. My mother, on the other hand, went there, but she did not speak Lakota fluently. It was not her first language because her family had English. And so she had the experience of being teased by the other students as trying to be a white person because she wouldn't speak Lakota.
In your career, you became an educator.
We didn't have much choices. At least I didn't realize that at the time. If you wanted to go on to do something after high school, it was either being a teacher or a nurse. Well, I had no desire to be around sick people or whatever. And so that was all that was left for me to do, was be a teacher. And I got to many years later, after I found out that there were such things as women who were lawyers, I thought, I could have been a lawyer. I like to read, not necessarily a trial lawyer, but something like that. And I always kind of regretted that I never had that opportunity to look at that. And not many of us did at that age, at least Indian girls.
With my mother, Virginia Driving Hawk Sneve, and the Black Hills, Shirley Sneve, ICT News.